Good afternoon to everybody, and I think, Rachel, it's a pleasure to see videos like that one, and that's what this job makes it the difference, to have now, this talent, behind us, okay, to take over. So I think, good afternoon to everybody. A pleasure to be here with all of you. I think I'm very, very happy to be here. I think I'm used to have opponents in front of me, so this time is nicer. I don't have people insulting me or putting pictures of me attacking us, but again, it's a pleasure to be with many of you. I think it's a long road. I joined, I was in investment banking before, but then I joined Iberdrola in 1987. I think the chairman and I in 2001, and even, before, but we started doing renewables, and we were attacked by everybody. You cannot imagine at that time. I think it's nice because you have a blue conference, and we used to be blue ties and blue everything. And then it took a lot of effort to my chairman to change into green. Okay, so that's why I'm very pleased to be here with all of you. Thank you. Before I start the presentation I know many of you are helping us, and we need to help each other. Okay, the only way to win what I call, the big fights with the oil and gas majors, with, the fossil generators. With many people, they claim they are very environmentally driven and they care about 1 megawatt a year. I think in our case, 40,000 megawatts. So it seems to me that, we are helping the world in what we believe is a no comeback future. But again, a lot of opponents. And that's why this is very nice for me to be here with all of you. I can tell you the rest of my day has been opponents. Okay, so anyway, let's enjoy this. If I can, yeah. Oh, 1 second. There we go. Okay. So before I think I confirm that's the slides. Before I start, I think just to give you a feeling about us in Avangrid and Iberdrola, I think when I joined the company, we were the 37th largest company, so we were not that big. I think right now we are the second, the second or the third, depending on how you measure us. So I think we have become a large company. I think in my case, I did more than 120 transactions, for Iberdrola, 140 billion of assets, of deals. That's what allows to create a company. I was in the US, running the US business back in 2007 when I did the first acquisitions. Then I've come back, I never left because I continued doing many other deals and always being at the board. And I think I came back a year ago because we had some small issues like a transmission line with the fossil generators opposing into Maine, from Canada into Massachusetts. I think we have some issues in some of the offshore projects. We have 3 rate cases, so I think, I came back full time, to help, the US team, to get there on the different things that we have. I think, as you know, we are, building the only real project in size, which is Vineyard Wind 1. Part of my morning is, the fight that we have to do now with GE to make sure that they put the turbines on time, which they're not going to do, but at least the sooner the better. And making sure I have some pictures, I'll happy to show it to you later, about the first part of the towers being shipped right now on the way to the US. They have to stop in Canada and transfer boats because of the Jones Act. I don't think that's very economic, but just for you to know the dynamics that we have to deal with. And I think we are very proud of being here and giving me this opportunity to be with you. I think the video that you have seen, in my opinion, is the example of what we do things. The first question I think is why offshore wind? And I always say, as a reference, look at Europe right now. What are the alternatives for energy? Russia, Algeria, with wars in the middle, with pipelines being blown out, it's very complicated. So you see now a race to do as much offshore as you can. When I see Massachusetts, you're going to double, demand in the next years, which is amazing. You have, in the coast here in the Northeast, beautiful, sustainable winds. I think you can see that. I'm sure you all feel that. Okay, this is the perfect place to have offshore. I think other countries is the only option. I think in this case, there has been restrictions for the further pipelines in terms of gas, and have a very sizable space to build solar or to build onshore wind. But you have very nice resources from an offshore point of view. So with demand doubling in the next X number of years, the only option, and all these power plants, basically being stopped over time, this is the only option. So from that point of view, I think we're very pleased to help Massachusetts to get there. I think, from an offshore point of view, critical mass is important. Let me just show you the next page. I think, in terms of the energy mix for the future, many times, we have had this conversation in many countries. In the Northeast, specifically in New England, I think you are doubling, the demand in the next 25 years. Most of the fossil generators are going to basically be fully amortized, depreciated, so they are going to be running out of operations. In the meantime, they're very happy nothing is built. They're very happy, there is no competition. They're very happy cheaper energy is not brought in, so that keeps the prices up. No surprise, the increase in the supply part of the bill in Maine, in New York, and in Connecticut, 50, 100%, pick up any number. But again, sometimes we have, regulators focusing on the regulated part of the bill that has increased 3%, 2%, 4%. It's a pity because the main issue right now is that the supply, the generation part of the bill. When we think about the electrification of the economy, the electrification of our houses, there is no comeback. It doesn't matter how much people try to delay, it's going to continue and more. So from that point of view, offshore is uniquely in a position to get it done. I think you see, how electricity is going to double, triple, pick up any number you want. Just to give you a reference, sometimes we think, the US, we are the number one in the world in everything. And I always mention New York upstate. In New York upstate, if any of you have a house there, look through the window. What do you see? If you do not see a pole, you are not in upstate New York. If you see a concrete pole, probably you are not in upstate New York. If you see a wooden pole, you probably are in upstate New York. 20% of those poles are more than 80 years old. That's the current grid status you have in upstate New York. And can you compete with a brand new electricity system that we have in Brazil? That's why all the factories are going to Brazil. It's not just cost, it's also electricity availability. Otherwise, you cannot guarantee the source of energy to those clients that they want to set up big firms, etc., big factories, etc. So I think when you look at this dynamic, the grid is as important as the generation. So we are in an issue. We are trying to fix that issue. I think the governors in general are very committed. But again, it's very easy to play politics with bills. So from that point of view, I think in the case of offshore, we believe that it's uniquely positioned to try to get this done, from one of the few energy alternatives that you have in the Northeast and specifically in Massachusetts. I think, I was happy, to see that Massachusetts is taking the lead in many things. This is what should be done. Look at the mistakes of many other states and countries. I think Governor Healy, the Speaker Mariano, Senate President Spilka, we were today, with Chairman Roy, we were, with, Senator Sear. I think you have a lot of people who had a vision. Governor Baker, for me, it was very nice to be in our blade center, the training, the place where, the blades are prepared, which is nice to see them, how big they are. It's not something you think about it. And it was nice to see both parties there, congratulating to each other. I was in the White House and, IRA, which for me was a beautiful announcement. The whole speech was political. There was nothing about, the IRA almost at all. It's a pity. I think Massachusetts, for me, to see the two parties working together, congratulations. I don't see that in the world that much nowadays. And it's very nice to see that, the vision about this has been taken by the former AG, is taken by many of the legislatures, is taken by the previous administration. Well done. I think people care about Massachusetts as opposed about just politics and, my elections next week or next year or 3 years from now. So that's very nice, in terms of comparing that with many parts of the world. You just need to turn on the TV and probably you understand very well what I'm saying. I think in terms of decarbonization roadmap for 2050, this is a unique resource. I'm very pleased about the targets that Massachusetts has. In our case, we're always very simple. I think we say, please, at the same time that focusing on 2050, 2040, what about focusing on 2023 and 2024? What are we doing right now? And that's us. People like us, we're building and building and developing and developing. That's why the combination of both targets is very, very important. But let's not forget, the today. Things are done today. It's not just these nice goals that everybody wants. And I think Massachusetts, you see this behavior, I think is beautiful. If you really want, those targets, I think Massachusetts, the number I think, is probably 12 to 25 gigawatts of offshore wind over the next 25 years. I think those are the same numbers that were thought for 25 years in some parts of Europe, especially in the Baltic region, where we operate assets, as I will explain later. And I can tell you right now, they are in a race to get it done quickly because of the mess in Ukraine, because of the mess in gas, because. Now suddenly they realize they need to go full speed. So that's why for me, these numbers, I don't think it's a dream, it's a real need. And Massachusetts needs that, but the nice thing is you depend on you, as opposed to many other people and in countries, they depend on somebody else. They don't have access to sources of energy. I think in our case, the challenges are opportunities. We are a large company. I will comment some things, now, and that's why for me, Governor Healy, Secretary Rebecca, the DOR Commissioner Elizabeth, people that we know for a long time, very nice leadership right now, because they have, the view. They opposed before, as we did, many things on the fossil and gas, part of the business. So very happy about the leadership you have right now. Happy with the previous one, happy with the current one. So I'm very pleased that you are in the right hands, going forward. Let's go a little bit into us. I don't like to speak at ourselves. I'm going to give you, some numbers. I think as Avangrid, we are doing business in more than 24 states in the U.S. from a renewable point of view. So again, I think we're trying our best to help the U.S. to get there, from a renewable and green energy commitment. We have different utilities in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine. We serve more than 3 million customers in the Northeast, which is a big number. We're the third largest renewable company in the US from an onshore and solar point of view. I think we were one of the first movers in offshore wind in the US, with our Vineyard Wind project. So very pleased also, as we have done in many cases, to be. And we have more than 40 billion of assets. 15 years ago, we had 0. I think that gives you a feeling of how we like to grow. And I think, we have more than 7,500 employees, which again, as Rachel, I'm very proud on the team that I have here, and you will hear Ken soon. I think it's a great team. Okay, and as I always tell them, not everybody's committed long-term for things like offshore. You can move to other jobs very quickly, but I have the feeling, especially in offshore, as I told people a year ago, the chances that you will call us back is quite high, because we're not here to live, as opposed to other people that they're just to sell, or they're probably financially okay now, but not tomorrow. They start, they stop. So that's not us. I think we're very committed, on the long run. I think in terms of, where we do business, as you can see, we have more than 8,500 gigawatts of renewable energy right now in the US. It's a big number. We started, my first acquisition of renewable was in 2003. So it seems like yesterday, but it's a long time ago with nobody. I always remind people, my last transaction when I was in banking was Kenetec. I don't know how many of you remember Kenetec, but there was like Siemens Gamesa, like Vestas. It was a turbine manufacturer in California, and they got bankrupt. So, hopefully none of these guys that, follows the same path now, because we need all of them, okay? We love them competing, and we love them to be there. I think, as you can see here, we're all doing also offshore wind in the Northeast, in Connecticut and Massachusetts, an active building project being built right now. We have also offshore in the Carolinas, a big list there to be developed. So I think we are trying our best to help the US, as you can see in the picture. If we move to our portfolio, I would say three key projects. The first one is Vineyard Wind 1. This is our partnership, with my friends in Copenhagen, CIP, long-term friends. I think, as you can see, we're building that. I think right now, with the exception of the GE turbines, almost everything is on track. I think we are having issues. Just to give you a feeling, the negotiation with the banks for the tax equity part is being very tough. They're requesting hundreds of millions of guarantees beyond, what was agreed in the first term sheet. Why? I think probably the mess in the banking sector in the US right now, in other places. Probably about the Ukraine war. Those things make those people quite conservative. And not everybody will be able to close the tax equity right now. They will not even have assets to guarantee what they're requesting. So that's one of the examples of large companies fully committed. It's very important to make these dreams real, because otherwise you will be stopping right now the construction, or you probably would have not even started. So I think we're very happy about the other two projects we have, Commonwealth and Park City. We have been public that, that the world has changed, and it not has changed. The guys with the contract with us have renegotiated the contract. They have put on the table 20, 30, 50, 100% increases. So I think right now we're working with the administrations in both states to make sure we can, apply for a new PPA. We do not stop the development of the assets. I think we have invested probably almost $1 billion in the two of them. That shows the commitment for the new projects. So we continue reaching agreements, with, the different parties that we need to make sure the projects move ahead. Today we had good news, I think, with the new RFP that the governor and her team has released. We're very pleased. I think allows us, hopefully to participate, on it. And I think we're very committed to continue the projects, and we have not stopped, So hopefully we can participate bit and just get the right economics. Finally, we have Kitty Hawk, which is, the Carolina. Well, we have Park City in Connecticut, and then we have Kitty Hawk in the Carolinas. So we think, all these projects are real, sizable, and shows the commitment we have to offshore and also to the U.S. from an offshore point of view. If I move to the group, just to comment a little bit, it's nice for me to see this because most of those assets you see there, some of them, most of them are transactions that I did to get them early stages. I worked with Dawn in 2008. That was my first offshore transaction and offshore project. I worked with Vattenfall in the agreement in the UK to basically go together and break up. I did the agreement with CIP here in the US. I did the agreements that you see there in Japan. So as you can see, we're very active. I think if I was to highlight right now, we have assets in operation in Germany and in the UK. We have assets being built right now in the UK, in Germany, France, and in the US. So we're probably one of the top 2 players globally in this business, and probably the only one with the financial capacity right now to tackle several things at the same time, which is not so easy, especially with the current trend that I have just mentioned in terms of, the banks and other reasons that I think you all know. So very happy on the different technologies we've been using, good relationship with all the suppliers, good relationships locally. I think we're very keen, I think last year Avangrid did, I think the number is over 95% of all our suppliers, being local in the US. We do the same thing in Brazil, the same thing in Europe. So we try to do as much as we can. There is not an offshore business developed yet in the US. That's why in this case we still have to rely, but our target is to become very local as soon as we can. That's why critical mass, as the governor has announced today, is important. I remember my first conversations with her team in the AG office, thinking about 400 megawatts, and I was there saying, no, 2,000. Don't go 400, that's not efficient, from a size point of view. So I think, as you can see, we are doing a lot of things, from an offshore point of view, because there is no alternative. Many of these countries that you can see, once you move away from, fossil generation, nuclear is shut down, what do you have left? Hydro, onshore wind, solar, and offshore. There are not so many, and a little bit of gas. That's, I think, the combination. When we go to the Iberdrola, group, I think we're very pleased, to have, the lowest or one of the lowest, emissions, company in the sector. Not easy to get that. I think, as I told you, we are right now the second, third, depending on the day. I'm very pleased about, the size that we have achieved, which allows us to do things. To give you a feeling, I think this year we probably will be investing around 15 billion. That's the amount we've been investing, recently, a year, capital expenditure. So that's a big amount, just in 1 year. That's why it's good that we are in big countries. Otherwise, we would not be able to continue investing. I think, we are, in different, awards, indexes, Dow Jones Sustainability, Ethisphere, Standard & Poor's. There are many, one of the just companies that we have right now. Very pleased for me, how we have been able, to get some, awards also in relation, to women, in relation, to diversity, in relation, how we treat, the employees. They're very happy because everything matters. I think ESG for us is very important. It's not just about making money, but we remind people that we don't make money. We put people who give us money to do things, and we need both. We need the customers to pay, or regulators to allow the rates, but we need the people giving us money, and we're in the middle. And I think in the middle is the team. And that's why we care about shareholders, as we care about customers, as we care about the society, we care about the employees. So ESG for us has been, for me, a critical thing, and that's why being part of the Iberdrola Group allows us right now the negotiations with GE being different, because we have them in nuclear, we have them in gas-fired generation, we have them in turbines, we have them in many things. That allows us, to be on top of the queue always whenever there is an issue, so that's important. So again, being part of the Iberdrola Group, I think it's an honor. I'm part of the guys who have created this company, and that's the type of company that I think we should favor doing business in Massachusetts. I think in terms of the targets, you know the US, you know Massachusetts, but it's interesting, look at us. We have already a scope 1 and 2 commitments. Very few people have commitments for scope 1 and 2. They try to invent, we're going to be doing something, you don't even know what they're doing. And I think our case is very clear. We have very strong commitments. I think, as you can see, we are investing materially in networks and renewables. I always say one needs the other one. We've been with this strategy for 20 years, very simple. We always said focus. If you don't build networks, you cannot build new generation. And if you build new generation, but there is no networks, it doesn't work. So from that point of view, I think our strategy on networks and renewables, I think is important. We have been a pioneer, yes. I think we took a decision, almost 25 years ago now. And again, I think now seeing all of you here for me is very nice. I think in 2098 or 2001, but specifically when the chairman joined and we did the 2001 strategic plan, we were alone. Governments attacking us, competitors attacking us, everybody attacking us. But sometimes in life, you think, there is a future that is clear, and we happen to be right. So from that point of view, I think it's very happy to be pioneer and try to get to the new generations that we have of talent, and in general also to our customers, and in general to the population. We serve 100 million people right now, electricity, and gas, on a global basis. So it's a lot of people, and I think for us it's an honor to have been taking this. I think the first mover advantage, clearly we have done so in terms of acquisitions, in terms of view for the networks and the renewables. And I think we care about us. We don't look at other people so much. A lot of people follow us. In our case, I think we're very proud of what we want to do, and let's keep doing that because I think we're successful. And finally, we are, as you know, engaging locally. We are engaging with, DOE in many matters. I think we're in the hydrogen hub right now. We only do green hydrogen, so that's us trying to promote that. I think we're very pleased on some of the local dynamics. As I mentioned, IRA, beautiful. Infrastructure bill, beautiful. There's always something wrong, but compared with most of the other countries doing nothing. So I think you've been lucky right now. We've been lucky here in the US with some decisions being taken, which I think has been beautiful. And especially I think when they ask me what's a good thing about that, is predictability. You saw now when the House has changed in control, one of the first things is let's cancel this 2-year moratorium on panels, let's do this. Then we go back to politics, and it's a pity. I think, that predictability of long-term 10 years of everything set up, that's what we need as investors. That's what I think allows things to happen. I think people say, well, you're going to make a lot of money because IRA. I say no, because some of the benefits are compensated with some other things. If local content is promoted, the local content in the US is much more expensive if you bring things from abroad. So by doing that, the costs go up. But I think in balance is positive. The monetization of the tax credits to create that market, not to be in the hands of 2 or 3 banks, I think is very, very important. So from a legislation point of view, I would say probably what would I ask you to help going forward? 2 things, permitting and litigation. We've been suffering, in our case, 3 years of litigation in Maine. You cannot imagine the litigation I have right now in New Mexico in an acquisition. Why? That's dynamic. And that's what kills the development quickly of what is needed, for the states in general and for Massachusetts. As an example, how many people would like to spend $100 million in a PAC and in lobbies and in lawyers and in media to go against the fossil generators in Maine to build a transmission line? Not a lot of people, and we did. And we felt alone. I was telling many politicians recently, we've been very alone in that fight. And we are the ones with that fight bringing green, cheap energy from Canada into Massachusetts. We've been very alone because not everybody likes to be fighting in the front line. And we've been insulted. We've been called anything you can think of. Of course, always there is a new uphill. I always say, what's the next one? I'm sure there is a new one to come. So it's amazing. That's why on that front, at the federal, state level, both things are the critical things if we want to see things. Because otherwise, it's going to be delayed. Provoke, you have a Texas law firm opposing offshore. It doesn't seem to me makes a lot of sense, but that's the reality we have. We're used to that. So there's not a surprise for me, okay? But I think for all of you, keep that in mind because probably are the 2 requests I would like to ask you today. I think in the case of the vineyard, I didn't know you put my picture saying hello to the governor. You can change it because I don't like to see myself. Put the chairman, which is what we should put all the time. But I think, this is giving you just the idea. I mean, I can show you pictures of my chairman with the towers on Saturday, in the harbor that is going to ship them over here. And we're working 24 hours, 7 days a week. And he was with the lower part of the towers, of the Vineyard Wind project that are right now being finished. And you can see that, that's this yellow part, and you have the white part, and you see how short people look, next to that, and still there is a lot, to go above. So as you can see, these are real pictures. We are working on that right now. And with the exception of the turbines that we need to continue pressing, I think, this is something, I think we're comfortable that the first power will be produced this year. And based on these turbines, delay, seems to me probably some months of delay. But I think the project is, going well. And, I think it's going to be beautiful. I would encourage all of you to come and see it, once it's built. Again, if those of you wants to come to the UK or to Germany, also happy to invite you. I think when you see the size and how big they are, then you understand the amount of energy that is produced with those parks. I think one of the things we have always explained is the local component. This is not just about making money. It's also about making money. You need to be profitable. That's why we're the only guys transparent. Saying in November the numbers do not work for Commonwealth and Park City. We were transparent. Other people behind, quiet. Other people, let's renegotiate. We were transparent and put it out there. And we still believe our projects, it will be the cheapest going forward, in a new bid, etc. But I think, these are the numbers that show the local jobs, the economic development. I think you're speaking about, more than 1 million houses, will be powered if we were to go ahead with Commonwealth in addition to Vineyard Wind 1. I think, as you can see, there is a lot of megawatt hours to be generated. This is more or less around 15% of the Massachusetts demand. So those two parks just is 15% of the demand. That's the size, of these parks. Well, I mean, look at the amount of emissions that will be avoided, which is also beautiful to see that. I think the jobs, I always say there are the construction jobs, the full-time jobs, and the economic development around the jobs. As you can see, there are, specific objective, almost 1,000, a year, jobs, sustainable jobs during the period of the 30 years the asset has. But I think you think about the economic development around construction, we get to 25,000. So these are big numbers, it's not something, small. And you have this relationship more or less for each job created here, there are 2 more jobs out there. So there is like a synergetic approach. You get synergies as you build these assets because it's more and more and more. I always say, our competitors and us, I don't care about them, we care about us. You go to our offices in Boston, it's real. You go to Vineyard Wind 1, it's real. Go to the O&M Facility Center, it's real. Go to the Blades Center, it's real. That's what we do, real things and not promise, I think is being built. Economic benefits, more than $3 billion if we were to go ahead with the 2 projects, invested in Massachusetts, which is a material amount. I think we have, an estimate of around $22 billion of contribution to the GDP. This is also a big number. You have, the 3.7 billion, benefits we estimate compared to the current alternatives over the life of the period. So this is also an energy that is, efficient from that. And as you know, we have committed also, material amounts in workforce, in terms of communities and other things, which is in the end, I think, another very important part of us. We're usually not known. I think we don't like to be known. We like to be known locally. We like to be known, by our shareholders. We like, other people, our customers, our politicians, regulators, etc., to take all the credit. We just like to get things done. We usually like to have a low profile, and that's why sometimes, you don't know how many things we do, but that's our style. That's why it's not easy to get us here, but in this environment that we have so many opponents, it was important to come here to say thank you to all of you. What are we doing right now? Working to help Massachusetts to get those climate goals. We're speaking about offshore right now, but the transmission line into Canada is also very important. We are local. I'm very pleased about that. I think we have done that always, wherever we go. Those suppliers they were with us in the 90s, they come and create factories and they create their own business in those countries and states where we do business, so that's beautiful. We have a very common, vision with Massachusetts. I don't think of, a perfect match better than that one. We see the electricity world, we see the energy world, and the future 100% aligned. That's why I think all my credit to the current leadership that you have in the administration, in the legislature as well. It's a pleasure because that's not the case everywhere, that we have to fight, to get things done. And finally, I think we're trying to lead, so we're not shy of these fights. I think we like to, to engage in big projects, complex projects. Sometimes there's a moment you feel like I have enough, because it is all the time difficulties, all these litigations, and another one, etc. But in the end, we start again, and we continue, and we do a lot of things. So that's why that's a little bit, what I wanted to say to you today. So again, thank you. It's probably what I wanted to say to all of you. You're going to enjoy now with Ken as well. He probably speaks better than I do, and he knows some of you already. And nothing else. So anytime you need anything from us, let us know, and I'm always available 24 hours for all of you. Okay? So thank you very much.